Alright, hey guys, welcome to part 2 of the gluten series. Today we're going to be talking about the digestive system. I'm going to give you the rundown, the basics of what the digestive system is, how it basically works, and the effects of gluten on it. So what I have for you over here is a diagram of the human digestive system. Where does it start? Starts right there at the mouth, right? Starts right there at the mouth, goes all the way down into the stomach, into the small intestine, through all of this convolution right here, and then into the large intestine, and then out through your anus. So from the mouth to the anus, if you had to straighten all of this out, you had to straighten out all of those convolutions. From that point to that point, if you had to straighten it all out, that would be 30 feet. That's like 9 meters. Okay? That's a lot of piping. From there to there is a lot of piping. It's 30 feet. Okay? Alright. I'm gonna take a sip of my tea here. Okay, the digestive tract. Today we're going to be limiting our learning to the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine. Okay? What is the purpose of the stomach? Your stomach is filled with hydrochloric acid. Okay? That's about the level of acid in the stomach. Okay, all of that would be filled with hydrochloric acid. The hydrochloric acid is super strong and can digest bone. Okay, so now you might ask, how come it doesn't digest the stomach? How come it doesn't eat itself? Because the stomach lining has mucosa. This stomach lining right here, that's mucosa. It's generating a mucus that is shielding the stomach cells, the lining of the stomach, from digesting itself. Now this is constantly renewing itself. Some of the mucus is breaking down with the acid, going down the tract, and is producing more mucus, going down the tract. More, so your body is constantly working in the cycle. So digestive acid will not burn your stomach unless you have something like gastrointestinal reflux, GERD, or like heartburn, where the acid actually starts splashing up. Where the acid actually starts flashing up from that sphincter into the esophagus. Okay? That's when you get heartburn or acid reflux, as a lot of you know it. I'm sure a lot of you actually experience this, and well, you got to make the change now to get rid of that stuff. So after the stomach, we go into the small intestine. That right there would be the lower pyloric sphincter. So where does digestion start? Digestion starts in the mouth. Depending how you chew your food. You got to chew your food. You got to mix it with saliva, which has salivary amylase or amylase, which starts breaking down starches, right? As soon as you smell your food, that connection with your brain sends signals down to your stomach to start producing enzymes to break down proteins and fats. Fats are broken down by lipase, and proteins are broken down by proteases. Okay, so these are enzymes that break down your food. So digestion starts in the mouth. You gotta chew your food good, alright? You can't rely on all of the food to go down there and let your stomach acid melt it away. Of course it does, but you could assist it greatly by breaking it down into smaller particles, increasing the surface area of each particle that is exposed to stomach acid and enzymes. So snipping it up into little tiny pieces, little molecules, and your body can absorb that, versus like a big chunk of like many molecules. Your body's gonna take time to like start drilling it and breaking it apart. Okay, so digestion starts in the mouth. Start chewing your food well. After the small intestine, it goes into the large intestine. So the end absorption happens in the small intestine, okay? Before we move on to the large intestine. The end absorption of food happens in the small intestine, all right? But the stomach also will digest and absorb key nutrients and minerals that are permeable through that membrane, the stomach lining. So your stomach is also absorbing a small amount of nutrients, typically vitamins and minerals, but the proteins and the starches and the fats go down the tract. All right, we're not going to get into fat metabolism using the liver today, but that's for subsequent video. The next would be the large intestine. So the purpose of the large intestine is to start drawing out water, to dehydrate your food that has passed from your stomach into your small intestine, and now it goes into large intestine to basically draw out all of the water. So you can use some of that water. A lot of it is recycled. Some of it that cannot be used anymore with like metabolites and byproducts of digestion. Your waste material can be excreted through your urine. So your kidneys will filter that out and you will pee it out. All right. The more solid fibrous matter is passed out as stools, as your poop. Okay. So what's happening in the large intestine is just absorption of water. Okay. There's no nutrients and stuff getting absorbed in there. It's just passing in there so that water can get absorbed, and it's typically a drier area than the small intestine. The small intestine is a very wet area, okay? All right. So you learned, you chew, goes into stomach acid starts melting up all of your food, right? After being chewed well, that sphincter starts opening and letting out a little food at a time. All right? So all of your food doesn't just gastrically empty into your intestines. It's a small amount of food. So that would be your sphincter, your lower pyloric sphincter at the bottom of your stomach. So after you've chewed your food and it's mixed with all of this acid and enzymes and stuff, that sphincter is going to open, let a little food out, a little blob of food, okay? And it's going to close again. Now your small intestine is going to squeeze it along, okay? It's going to squeeze it along down the tube. Now this squeezing is called peristalsis, or the peristaltic wave. Now after this food from the little sphincter opens, a little blob of food comes out, which is known as chyme. Chyme is the food that is semi-digested mixed with the acid in your stomach. So when this sphincter opens and a little chyme comes out, it passes it along to a certain distance based on the absorbability and digestibility of the food. Your body is predetermining all of this. Your body is super intelligent. After it passes along a certain length of the tube, the small intestine, that sphincter is going to open again. And another little blob. Pass it along. Another little blob, right? Opens up. So your food is constantly passing in these small little amounts that can be absorbed. Okay? So understanding this peristaltic wave is important when we get into video number 3, or perhaps maybe later on in this video, and you'll know why it's so important. Okay? So you've learned about chewing your food, breaking down the particles, sending it to your stomach melts it away with all of that hydrochloric acid, and then you start opening up the lower sphincter of the stomach, the pyloric sphincter, and letting your food out. So your food's getting absorbed. A great amount of absorption happens in the small intestine. That's why it's longer than the large intestine. Okay? Awesome. Where does gluten play its role over here? Now, gluten is that hard protein, like we said, is made of, it's a combination of gliadin and glutenin, creates this hard molecule, all right? It's a protein. Now, this protein is so hard that it goes in there and starts itching, rubbing against stuff. Okay? In the stomach, it's not water soluble. Do you remember that? It is not water soluble. Okay? So even the acid is not going to break it down. It's partly alcohol soluble. You're not producing alcohol in your body, so that doesn't matter. Goes into the stomach, the gluten. Now you've eaten the gluten. Oh, you feel good because bread is tasty, right? That gluten goes in, starts irritating the stomach lining. Okay? Starts irritating the stomach lining. What's your body going to do when it has irritation? It's going to produce mucus, right? What's the stomach lining made out of? Cells, smooth fibers, and mucus. So your body's going to start producing more mucus. Okay? Now that mucus is going to dull the strength of that acid in there. So you're not going to be absorbing and digesting that food efficiently as if that acid was stronger. So you're damaging your stomach lining with gluten. It's a small little particle and it's irritating that lining there. It's irritating it. Okay, sometimes with chronic inflammation through gluten, some of this acid can leak out and give you like heartburn, right? You'd basically start catabolizing yourself from the inside. Okay, gluten has gone over here. Gluten's mixed with the food in there. Gluten goes into the small intestine. All right, it's gone into the small intestine. What's inside your small intestines? Villi. They're those little finger-like substances. I have another image for you here. There, that's what the inside of your intestine looks like. Okay? It's not just a smooth pipe. It's full of these little finger-like, tiny little villi. V-I-L-L-I. Villi. So each of these little things is increasing the surface area. So food is passing through the intestine, but a lot of it is going in there and your enzymes are further being produced and it's getting absorbed. So your nutrients are actually getting absorbed by these villi. They're extremely important and there are millions and millions of them in your intestines, okay? So what gluten's gonna do is, it's gonna go and get stuck. We're talking about a singular particle of gluten right now. And there would be thousands of particles of gluten in, I don't know, 3 slices of bread, 4 slices of bread. The gluten's gonna go in there. Remember, it's a hard protein. It's like diamond on glass. It's gonna start irritating it. All right? What's gonna happen when you get an allergy, when you inhale pollen? Your eyes start welling up. You start tearing and your nose starts running. Why? Those are your histamines. That's your body's response to something that is irritating the mucosal linings. Okay? So now these villi are not dry. Remember I said the small intestine is a very wet place, all right? There's a lot of mucus in here. There's a lot of mucus and stuff in there. It's not all bad mucus. There's a minimum amount of mucus that is required to allow everything to go down smoothly. So like getting a dust allergy or a pollen allergy and your body's producing mucus to like clean it out, your body's going to start producing mucus, excess mucus, when gluten goes into all those little nooks and crannies and starts irritating it. Okay? Now what happens if someone's eating gluten like every day, someone who's just eating bread all the time, right? Or biscuits and cookies and sweets. That is chronically inflamed. Your body is producing mucus all the time. And remember, just because the body's producing mucus doesn't mean it's actually carrying out and excreting all of that gluten. That gluten is still embedded. So the gluten's here, and the mucus covers it, trying to carry it away. But the gluten is stubborn. It's hard and it's a stubborn molecule. So the mucus covers it. Mucus goes away. There's still mucus covering it, right? And the gluten doesn't go anywhere. That one gluten molecule gets covered by mucus, and another layer of mucus, and another layer of mucus. And what's on this side? All of those little delicate villi, right? And this thing is embedded in there, and it's stuck with that mucus. The mucus has covered it, and this thing is like embedded between those villi. Starts irritating it. The gluten is irritating it, because why? There's also the peristaltic wave. Do you remember that? The peristaltic wave that's moving your food through your small intestine? Yeah, that's constant, right? So imagine doing that. It's like rubbing ground glass on yourself. It's like taking ground glass and like rubbing it. That's what the gluten's doing to the inside of your intestine. It's stuck there, and this peristaltic wave is moving it around, and it's causing these little micro tears. So now that's your intestine, all right? So that's the intestine in this in this tube right here. The gluten is on the inside over here. The gluten's on the inside. So you're seeing the outside tube. So on the inside, what's happening? The mucus is covering it, and the peristaltic wave is happening. Slowly, after time being spent there, that gluten molecule is going to start tearing little holes in your intestinal lining. That's just one molecule. Where did it go? Not in the digestive system. Not through the correct pathway of digestion and elimination. So now this little gluten molecule is free flowing in your bloodstream, in your body. Okay? Do you understand this? It has broken out. It's not contained by the digestive system, and it's out free flowing in your body. This is just one gluten molecule, remember. Free flowing in your body. What does your body do? Start attacking it with white blood cells, right? Or your white blood corpuscles, considering it to be an invader or an alien organism, or alien substance to your body. So gluten will basically cause autoimmune diseases just by creating this gut permeability issue. Okay? So there you have it. I hope you've understood so far what gluten does and how it's actually irritating the inside of your gut lining and escaping. Okay? So how do you know if you have a gluten sensitivity or a gluten intolerance? For those of you who are celiac, you suffer from celiac disease, you very well know. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, is also something that could be associated with gluten. A lot of people, a lot of doctors will not make the connection between small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and gluten. Okay? Because you're causing like a crazy amount of gut permeability with this gluten molecule. All right? And then you're eating all of these carbohydrates and sugars and proteins, and they're leaking out. So small intestinal bacterial overgrowth would be in this upper area right here, below the transverse colon right here. Underneath there, that small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is when bacteria starts moving up from the small intestine into the stomach. And now the bacterial balance has been completely thrown off. So consider that. Look into small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and how gluten plays its role. You could also feel dizzy after eating something with gluten. You could have irritable bowel syndrome, like I said, being caused by those little holes coming in, being developed in your intestine, and the gluten going out into your bloodstream to create havoc and your body attacking it. So that's not the end of it, right? It's not just, once those holes are there, your body is not just going to heal up just like that. Of course, it's constantly renewing itself, but not at the rate at which you're eating. And it's not just gluten that's going out through there. There's other food particles also there escaping into your bloodstream. Why? Because there's a hole there now. Okay? So these other food particles which don't have to be necessarily inflammatory. They could be amazing nutrients and amazing proteins, but your body's not going to absorb proteins until they're broken down by enzymes. You're not going to absorb fats until they're emulsified with bile from the liver. But it has to get to the liver first. Now, if there are already holes in here and your body is excreting, leaking, essentially leaky gut, right? Essentially leaking out all of these nutrients, what is your body going to do? Remember how it produced those white blood cells to attack the gluten? It's going to produce all of these antibodies to attack these food particles. They're not bad. They're supposed to be nourishing you. They're food. But because they have gone through the wrong pathway and they've entered into the bloodstream undigested and unbroken down with enzymes, your body's attacking your food. It's attacking something that should be nourishing you. So this is the basis for all dis-ease, discomfort, gut permeability issues. Okay? Look into that. It's very important. You could get achy joints. You could get itching. You could get drowsiness. You could get mood swings. Looking at my cheat sheet here. You could get bloating. It could definitely affect your posture. And it could dull your nervous system. I'm going to explain something mind-blowing to you. You see all of these diagrams. All fine and dandy. You see the digestive system, right? But what's holding that in place? What's holding all of that in place? They're not just suspended. They're not just hanging there. There's fascia. There's the deep abdominal wall. There's fascia, right? What is fascia? Fascia is like your weave of cloth, right? But it's muscle. Like, can you pinch that over there? Pinch that over there. That's not skin. That is fascia. Fascia, right? It's a flat muscle. And then at the back of your head is where your muscular system actually starts developing. But it starts from here. It starts from here. All of this fascia pulled back. So that's not skin. Skin is paper thin. It's not only skin, I would say. Right? That's all fascia, right? It's all flat, smooth muscle fibers. So that's what's holding your digestive system in place. That would be your superficial six-pack muscles or the rectus abdominis over there. On the inside, you know those three fish gill muscles you see there? Those are actually the serratus anterior. But going from there, there's like a weave of muscles going down there. There's a weave of muscles going down there. Both sides. Those would be the transversus abdominis. They allow the twisting in the transverse plane. So not only is that going down there, there's also stuff going up there and up there, right? And it's not just in the front, it's in the back too. Your lower back is grabbing everything, right? So the transversus abdominis and the fascia in the core is getting inflamed with gluten. Why? Because the gluten has escaped. Do you remember? The gluten has escaped. And it's irritating all of that muscle tissue, all of that fascia. So now we go into how it could affect posture. Eating gluten is going to cause bloating, right? What happens when you get bloated? Oh, you just want to sit down. All right, that's not even the worst of it. How it affects posture is it's dulling the nervous system. So when you inflame those muscles in there, you inflame the rectus abdominis, the transverse abdominis, all of that intra-abdominal fascia, all of those little like cable-like thingies holding everything in place. It's like a network. It's like a mesh, right? It's a mesh holding all of your organs in place. Now all of that is inflamed. Why? The gluten has started irritating it. The gluten has started rubbing against all of that muscle tissue. Okay? So what's your body doing? Producing more mucus. Okay? Mucus is not conductive. Meaning your nervous system is going to be dulled. So your stomach is going to be distended, meaning your lower back. So if that's the front part of your body, that's your lower back, that's your buttocks, right? So you're facing that way. You're facing that way. Distension would mean you distend the lower back. You get that curve in there, and then your belly starts hanging there. Okay? So when you've distended, what has happened to all of these muscles? They have become lax. They're relaxed. The core has become relaxed. Why? Because they're all inflamed, and your brain from up top here is not sending that signal to tighten that core up. It's distended. It's open. You're letting it all hang out. Okay, so it's dulling the nervous system, and it's killing your posture. All right, so gluten is directly related with core strength, believe it or not. Now you might ask, some people eat bread every day and they don't have any of these symptoms and issues. Yes, everyone is built differently, and the ability for an individual to break down and excrete and eliminate these proteins are different. They have a different effect in the body. The genes for breaking down such a protein are different. Not everyone has them. It's less than 1% of the population that actually has celiac disease. But up to 40% of our population actually has the gene expression for celiac disease. Doesn't mean that 40% of the people on earth are going to get celiac disease. It's just that 1% of those 40 that end up getting celiac disease. And sometimes, if you actually test the celiac patient, they don't even have the gene sequence for celiac disease. So believe it or not, this is set and setting. This is cultivation. It's what you do on a daily basis. It's your eating habits. So some people can digest this well, and some people cannot. Be on the safe side. If you experience any of these symptoms like gas, bloating, irritation, psoriasis, eczema. What is psoriasis? What is eczema? It's that gut permeability issue. It's your intestine having those holes in it, and all of your food particles going through, all of your gluten going through, and your body attacking it. What's your biggest organ? The skin. The skin is the biggest organ in the body. It has the most surface area. So what is the body going to do? It's going to try and excrete these irritants, which are actually food particles, right? Unfortunately, they're food particles, but they're considered as irritants because they're not digested. So what does the body want to do? It wants to get rid of these. Where do these things show up? In the skin, in the folds of the skin, right? Behind the ears, psoriasis, eczema, in the folds of the skin, where there's an accumulation of skin folds and the body wants to like sweat and get it out there. So that's what skin disorders are. They start with a gut permeability issue. All right. I know that's a lot of information for this one video. I hope you understood a lot of the stuff I was talking about. Another thing, we'll end with what Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said. All diseases start in the gut. So your gut health is paramount to, firstly, health, and then performance, right? Athletic performance starts with a good, sound base of health. You got to be healthy. You just can't go and beat up yourself in a workout and then go and eat all of the inflammatory foods and expect yourself to be high performing. Doesn't work that way. Okay? So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a bunch of stuff in this video. I know it can be a lot to take in. Watch it again. Okay? Make your own notes. Do your own research. And don't forget to check out the link in the description below. You can read all about the wheat berries and stuff like that. Alright? Cool. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.